Welcome to 10-Minute Type Advice by Personality Hacker. I'm Joel Mark Witt.
And I'm Antonia Dodge.
This show features questions from the Personality Hacker community that we answer in about 10 minutes. We've been using personality types in our coaching for years, and we'd love to answer your questions about personal growth through the lens of type. You can find out more about us at personalityhacker.com. Okay, now let's hear today's question.
Hi, my question is it possible for people to display both extroverted and introverted of a single function, like feeling or thinking or intuition or et cetera, et cetera? The reason I ask is because I feel like the way that you described it, I identify with both extroverted and introverted intuition, even though technically I'm an ENFP and my dominant function is extroverted intuition. How does the variance between that work? As with anything, this is a framework, so is it framed in a certain way? So I hope that makes sense. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. So as an ENFP, what I hear you asking is, man, my extroverted intuition, my driver in my cognitive function stack or CAR model, that exploration process, I have it obviously, but I also feel like I've got the introverted intuition available to me as well. So what's going on there? Am I maybe more ambivert than I realized? Is this whole attitude of a function, like what does that mean if I can actually access both the introverted and extroverted version of that? Can you guys help me with this? I think that's what I hear you asking.
Yeah, so there's both a theoretical answer that applies to all types, and then there's a more specific answer that would apply to you as an ENFP. And I think I'll start with that one because I think it will help illustrate the point of how some of this works. So as an ENFP, you're going to lead, your dominant function is going to be extroverted intuition, or what we call exploration. And that function is it's an intuitive function that works best when it is engaged with the environment. Introverted intuition, which is the dominant or driver of I and J types, is also intuition. It's pattern recognition, but it works better when it's happening within the self. And so as a person who's leading with intuition, as an ENFP, you're going to, on some level, identify with all of the elements of intuition. You're going to identify with pattern recognition in general. And there's going to be a bit of this that feels like in the descriptions of introverted intuition, there's going to be a sense of simpatico with that. There's going to be a feeling of, oh, I do that, because you're so identified with intuition and pattern recognition in and of itself. So how can that be? Does that mean that you're using introverted intuition or perspectives? Well, of course you are, right? We're all using all 8 of the functions. The further down a function is in our stack, the less either we're identified with it or the more when we use it, it's clumsy. When we talk about our shadow functions, and our shadow functions are the functions that are 5 through 8. So for you as an ENFP, introverted intuition would be your 5th function. And then extroverted feeling would be your 6th function. Both of those functions are going to have some resonance with you. What happens when we observe people using our preferred functions in an opposite attitude, however, is that on some level we feel like they're using it wrong. And that includes introverted intuition. When we're talking to somebody who is an INJ, as a fellow ENP, by the way, that's why I'm saying we. When we talk to somebody who's using introverted intuition or perspectives, on some level it feels like they're doing it wrong. For example, a person who uses introverted intuition can only really truly come up with those solid patterns if they are 100% alone and inside their own mind. For those of us who use extroverted intuition, we come up with patterns better when we're talking to another person. In fact, brainstorming sessions, blue sky conversations, that's when we get the most clarity of our patterns. So it's not that introverted intuitives, those who use introverted intuition are necessarily quote unquote patterning wrong or coming up with bad conclusions. It's that when they leave to go do the same patterning that we prefer to do in other people's company, including theirs, that feels like they're disrupting the process, right? Like, no, let's be engaged. Let's talk with each other. Let's be opening up all of this dialogue and all of these patterns. When they can't really keep up, when they are just absorbing what you're saying and not giving you anything back, when they have to go away to really do that same patterning, but they do it with a quietness and a sort of a depth, that feels like it's the same. It feels like it's being used wrong to us. So that's the big difference between the two. Now, that doesn't mean that we never use that. I get plenty of shower thoughts, right? I'm in the shower and all of a sudden I get this big aha. So I obviously am also going to be using patterning that happens inside of myself in a quiet space. But that's not going to be where I get my best ideas. And it's not going to be as high quality as the ideas I get when I'm talking to another individual.
Well, I would say, so it's like, I think what you're saying, Antonia, is there's a consistency to it. Like I too am driving in the car quietly with my own thoughts and some intuition will bubble up. I can't rely on that though. As an ENFP myself, the best way to activate my intuition is grab a whiteboard, get you and a team of people together into a room, Antonia, and we start idea generating and writing all over the place, and sticky notes are everywhere, and we're active, we're up, we're bouncing ideas around. I can rely on that, right? I can't rely on the introverted intuition part, but it does happen for me.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way of saying it. Do I use it? Sure. Is it reliable and a go-to? No. Extroverted intuition or exploration is my reliable go-to. And so there's going to be a sense of resonance with the descriptions because we do also do that, but it's not going to be the thing that we grab as our go-to tool. And it's not going to give us all that like dopamine hit. Like there's this lovely little cocktail of chemicals that gets dumped into our brain whenever we're able to use our dominant or driver function. And for us ENPs, introverted intuition is not going to be giving us those chemical hits. And so we're not going to want to do them as much as we will extroverted intuition or exploration. So that's the first one. So just on a theoretical level, I guess I did answer the theory first, but on a theoretical level, we have access to the other attitudinal side of our preferred functions, but access does not mean attraction to or use of or, competency in or grabbing it whenever we can. We're going to do that with our dominant and auxiliary functions. The second thing is more specifically for you as an ENFP, it is hard to really determine the difference between introverted intuition and your auxiliary or co-pilot function of introverted feeling or authenticity. It is difficult to see a distinction between those two functions. In fact, all of the introverted functions are sometimes tricky to sort out exactly what's going on inside of us, particularly because it's a place that can't be observed by others. Like it's all happening internally. And there's going to be a little peppering of all of the functions in there. When you use your introverted feeling or authenticity, you're going to have a little bit of introverted sensing coming in, and you're going to have a little bit of introverted intuition, and you're going to have a little bit of introverted thinking. All of this is going to come in to support your introverted feeling or authenticity function as your co-pilot. So it's going to be hard to create clean lines around all of that, particularly since introverted feeling itself is a function that sees everything inside. Like it's all one big, happy family. It's a whole huge council of voices. So it's easy to grab descriptions of how the other functions work and then put it under the umbrella of introverted feeling or authenticity.
Yeah, as an example, an ENFP may be able to determine what someone else's motivation structure is, like why they're doing what they're doing. And you may attribute that to introverted intuition. Look, I'm shifting perspectives and I'm seeing it from their perspective. But really what you're doing is you're tapping into the introverted feeling or authenticity motivation of that person potentially. You're not necessarily seeing the perspective they're coming from. Whereas a introverted intuitive user, an INJ as an example, they might be actually tapping into the perspective of the person, not the motivation, but the way they're seeing things.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the second piece. The second piece is that it's easy to mistake what introverted feeling is doing for introverted intuition. And so there's going to be a little seasoning of introverted intuition in there, but even more so, there's probably a distinction between how these two functions are working, but they're very easy to confuse for each other. And that's one of the reasons why people struggle to figure out their type even after they discover cognitive functions. It's hard to really fillet these different functions out. That's one of the reasons why in our Profile training program, we culminate all of the theory with a 5-day workshop that focuses on embodiment exercises, because sometimes the only real way to understand the distinction between all of these functions is to be in it in an instructive way, like to be in an exercise. And there's a lot of people who use introverted feeling or authenticity that get there and do the introverted intuition exercise and go, oh, that's very different than what I'm doing. But sometimes you have to actually be in the experience of it to see the distinction between the two. So to, I guess, summarize the answer to your question is, yeah, you're probably using both, but that doesn't mean that you're using them equally or with as much satisfaction, right? As an ENP, you're going to definitely be reaching for extroverted intuition as much as possible, but you are probably using introverted intuition at times. And the second part is you also might be unintentionally conflating introverted feeling or authenticity with introverted intuition or perspectives, because it's hard to really create a distinction between those two functions since it's happening internally, and introverted feeling is not designed to create distinctions. It's designed to see something in amalgamation. And that piece of introverted intuition might become part of the amalgamation of how you experience your introverted feeling.
Thanks for the question. If you want to explore more, episode 30 of our podcast, our main Personality Hacker podcast, talks about the difference between introverted intuition or perspectives and extroverted intuition and exploration.
I would also recommend checking out the podcasts on why the world needs introverted intuition and why the world needs introverted feeling, because those are two separate podcasts that spend an entire hour on each of them side by side. And even if we're talking about what it brings to the world and some of the implications of the functions, it might help you create even greater distinctions between the two of them, so that when you feel like you're using introverted intuition, you can see, well, actually, maybe this might be introverted feeling.
Thanks so much for the question. You can ask your own question about personality types or personal growth. Visit personalityhacker.com/questions. We also have programs designed to help you with your personal growth through the lens of personality types. Again, visit personalityhacker.com and find the program that's made just for you. My name is Joel Mark Witt.
And I'm Antonia Dodge.
Thank you for listening to 10-Minute Type Advice by Personality Hacker. We'll talk with you on the next episode. If you're focused on personal growth, I think you'll resonate with our core content over at personalityhacker.com. We want to see you understand how your mind is wired so you can generate motivation, improve social skills, find career opportunities, and master excellent decision making. But a quick warning, we are advice and action focused in all of our articles, podcasts, and videos. This means that we attract people who like to be challenged to become excellent, to take action, to put in the work to optimize themselves, not simply just gather more information. If you are committed to personal growth and ready to radically find your inner truth, then come over and be a part of our growing community of like minds at Personality Hacker.